It's a beautiful day today and a beautiful day to read some more ProRevenge. I've really been missing this subreddit and I hope you guys are excited. I'm definitely excited. And yeah, having a good day today and I hope you guys are too. I just ate some ramen, so I'm ready for the adventures we're about to have. And with that being said, enjoy guys. Stick me with hidden charges, I'll show you. So this past Christmas, my missus and I purchased one of our 9-year-old son's Santa gifts from a certain UK sports retail company that also has stores here in Ireland as well. It was a football rebounder, kind of like a trampoline that you kick the ball at and it bounces back to you. Anyway, we purchased it from their Irish website and thought nothing more of it. A few days go by and we get a notification from a certain brown uniform courier company that there are customs charges due to something. And as you can imagine, we've bought many things for the kids, so we had to double check what we've ordered, and we didn't have anything left that was being imported, so we naturally assumed it was a scam. So I told my wife to call the company and find out who shipped it out, and it was a different courier company based in the UK. After a bit of digging and investigating, it turns out that it's our rebounder. They had shipped it from the UK via a local carrier to the brown uniform guys to deliver it to us. Now my wife and I are both on disability, so an additional charge of almost €50 when you're both already on a fixed income is pretty harsh, especially at Christmas. So I told her to pay it and I'd deal with the retailer. The first day I called, I had to call 3 times, being stuck on hold for at least 20 minutes each time. But I was patient and polite because I've worked in a call center before, so I know those people are only doing their job. But I asked to speak to a manager and I was promised a call back each time. That never happened. The second day was similar. The third day I was starting to get annoyed, so I called back, waiting even longer on hold, and finally wasn't taking this crap any longer. I told the rep that all I wanted was the €50 back because our consumer rights in Ireland dictate that a person must be informed of any additional charges on a purchase at the very latest by the final checkout screen, and in this case there was nothing to show that, and I could easily replicate that issue by putting the same item in my basket and going all the way to the checkout screen again, and there was nothing saying that we'd have to pay import charges. The rep was indifferent to the situation but tried to help, and what he said sent me over the edge. He offered me a measly €20 gift voucher to use on their website. Wow, what a spit in the face. But more importantly, he read a statement to me. He said, "We advise our customers that there may be DDU charges, delivery duty unpaid, i.e. customs charges, on any item that gets shipped outside of the UK." Then I asked him where it states this information and he paused and then said that he didn't actually know. I said, "Well, I know one thing. It doesn't say it anywhere on this transaction because I've checked it, and because it's a violation of my consumer rights, I'm going to give your company one last chance to make this right. Have your manager call me within the next 60 minutes or I'm going to post this entire debacle on LinkedIn and I'm going to link every senior officer in your company." Then I hung up the phone and waited. Yet again, no call. The next day I went on LinkedIn and I followed through on my promise. I created a post detailing what they'd done by sticking us with hidden charges and that they were ignoring our request for a manager and everything they said and did. And then I tagged every senior officer at the company, from the regional managers through to the European directors all the way to the CEO, and I shamed them for how they operate their company. This, ladies and gentlemen, was now an act of war. Shortly after I posted that, I noticed that they took down the item from their website in an attempt to hide this, but they must have thought that I'm a simpleton that doesn't understand how the internet works. They didn't realize that when you search for rebounder on their site, that it shows the item in question, so I took a screenshot of that, and then another of the item page that was now missing. But then I did a cached Google search for the same page, and I found a version from 2 days prior happily showing the item. Then I added a comment to my original post highlighting how they were trying to hide it with the evidence and trolling them for their heinous behavior, especially at Christmas. Then I tagged and shamed all the senior officers again, and at this point it was really starting to get some attention. Not only publicly, but 3 people in incognito mode viewed my profile. I wonder who they could have been. So naturally I took a screenshot of the 3 mysterious visitors listed on my profile, and I did the same thing, commented on my own post highlighting it and trolling them for their incompetence. The next morning I got a call from a senior executive at their head office in the UK, practically licking my boots with apologies, asking what she can do to make this right. I told her I originally only wanted my €50 back and it wasn't fair, nor even legal that I had to pay it, but since I had to go to such lengths to get their attention, now I wanted my €50 back, also a full refund on my entire purchase, and I wanted to keep the product. That was the only thing that would make this go away. She asked me for a couple of hours to fix it and I said okay. About an hour later I got another call from her again apologizing. She asked me for my PayPal address where she sent the €50, then she refunded the whole purchase and she let us keep the product. Obviously I thanked her for her help because at that stage I was happy happy to have it over, but I'll be damned if I let anybody walk all over my family, even if they are a £58 million annual company. The moral of the story here is don't take BS from anybody. I may be just one man, but my son's view of Santa is far more valuable to me than the opinion of some retail chain that doesn't care about its customers, nor how it operates ethically. Oh my god, that was so awesome. Good job, OP. That was so fun to read, and yet they deserved it. And they're counting on the fact that most people aren't gonna worry about it, and that's messed up, so good on you for doing this, OP. The next one is called So Sue Me. Can do. I'm a military veteran who was injured in Iraq. I mention only because it's important to the story. I worked for this company. I say company, but in reality, it was a guy who owned a few businesses, and he was the richest person in a very small town. It's important to say how I made it to this situation. I'll try and make it quick so I can get to the steak and taters, as it were. I joined the military before I even completed high school, late birthdays and all of that. I chose a military career path that I figured I'd enjoy, and since I love working on things, I became a mechanic. It offered a great sign-on bonus, so that was a bonus. I went through basic, only ever spending money on necessities, so I saved up quite a lot. Saved even more through advanced training for my MOS, military job. By the time I was done with both, I had half of my sign-on bonus, and I was just short of an entire year's pay in my bank account. At my age, most would have splurged. I invested in the stock market, Bitcoin, and I paid off my parents' house. A couple of deployments, the other half of my bonus, and the other thing I ever spent money on, outside of necessities, was my hot rod. Needless to say, I had some money saved up, and I invested it also. Long story short, when I discharged, I was pretty comfortable even after a nasty divorce. Don't get me wrong, I didn't and don't have stupid money, but because of the divorces, a lot of stocks were cashed out split, and if anyone follows Bitcoin over the past 2 decades, you know how that turned out. After my divorce, I worked to recover what I lost, and then just to keep busy. Like I said, I love working as a mechanic, and I'd bounce around wherever I liked, since a good mechanic can make money anywhere. After a decade of this, I decided to set roots in a small town since it would be nice and quiet. By this point, I was tired of always working on other people's cars, and I wanted to devote time to working on my car. I bought a small house, and I saw a help wanted sign at the local lube shop. At the old lube shop, figured it would be simple work for me and be something to cover my few expenses. I grab an application from the office, getting all kinds of looks from the townies. By the way, I'm 6'3". Since I discharged from the military, I stopped cutting my hair and shaving, and I have one full sleeve. Needless to say, most people cross the street instead of walk past. When I went to turn in my application to, we will call her Sue the bookkeeper, she asked me a couple of questions, checked I was a veteran, and put a Y on my application. Later that day, Sue calls me and asked if I would come back to meet the owner. Let's call him Peter. I agree, and Sue says that Peter will be there in an hour or so if I come in then we can talk about the position. I show up and Peter's eyes bulge at first sight, but we get to chatting and my southern charm wins him over. He tossed me a calendar that he made of his car collection and asked me to name the ones I recognized. There were a couple of Mustangs, a Ford GT, a Bricklin SV1, a Judge, a Demon, a Pantera, and an MXT. He was impressed that I knew what the SV1 was, and we chatted about cars for a bit. He offered me the position and explained that I'd be paid $100 a day, and I'd work Monday to Saturday from 8 to 6, no overtime, but I would get a full day's pay even if we closed shop early for some reason, and to eat when I could. I'd be off every Sunday and one extra day during the week. Awesome start, and worked maybe a year without any issues. Peter asked if I could help him out by being a relief worker for his other lube shops in neighboring towns. He says he'll give me $20 every day for travel, and basically I'd be covering so guys could take days off at the other stores. I agreed, and I did this about a year, and then disaster strikes. Peter meets Karen and falls madly in love. In the span of a month, they're married, and he starts supporting her and her gambling problem. This is when all the problems start. One week I noticed my paycheck was only $250, and I ask about it. Sue tells me that apparently there have been some changes and I should really speak to Peter about it. Sure, no problem. I call up Peter and I ask if we can talk about it. He shows up with Karen in tow, and when I asked why my pay was short, he tells me it was because of the bad weather and us closing early affected the business. I would have let it go at that because Peter was a nice guy, but Karen decided to speak. It isn't very fair to us to have to pay you for a full day if you don't work the full 10 hours. I said that would be true if I wasn't on a negotiated day rate, and if I get paid for each day I work, not hourly. That's why I don't get paid 19 hours overtime every week. She claims that's not how it works anymore, and that from now on I'd be paid for the hours I worked and nothing else. Okay, whatever you say, Karen. Fast forward to the next week, we had a week's worth of very busy days, and we were open a couple of hours later than normal to finish up with waiting customers, and I gave up one of my days off to cover for a sick co-worker. So when what should have easily been over an $800 paycheck was only $600, I had some questions. I called Peter and I asked him what was going on, why I only got paid $600, and he says, well, that's where we agreed on $100 a day. I look at him blankly and I ask if he forgot about last week, and he asked what about it, and I reminded him and he just says it is what it is. Okay, so at this point I'm aggravated, and that's when Karen walks in and asks, so what is he complaining about now? Oh my god, Karen sucks. I look at her coldly and I say, well, I worked 80 hours last week and y'all only paid me $600. She looks at me and says, you're contracted labor and you agreed to $100 per day, so why would we pay you more than that? I look at Peter and I ask, is that how it is? He just says, you heard the lady. I went home and I convinced myself that I was only working to cover my few living expenses anyway, and the job isn't that hard. The only other things in this small town would have been assembling sheds or slinging chickens at a chicken plant. The next week, one of the guys I work with is getting yelled at in front of customers by Karen about what she claims is an OSHA violation. She claims that as part owner of the company, it is her responsibility to ensure that all OSHA regulations are met, and his apparent violation was him wearing tinted safety glasses. Now this is BS because the base faced east-west, and with how the cars pulled in, top workers got the sun during the day and the pit worker got it in the evening. I shake my head as I'm walking in, and like a T-Rex in a dinosaur movie, it attracted Karen's attention and she decides to shout at me, you got something to say, you big biatch? And I just kept walking. I told Sue that she had to have a long talk with Peter before Karen's mouth wrote checks that he'd have to cash, and she says, I just keep the books, don't involve me. So this behavior goes on another year, and I'm finally at my limit. On the day I started my malicious compliance, I was in a very bad mood. I'd woken up to news that a good friend of mine that was responsible for me surviving being blown up in Iraq was taken out by a drunk driver. Not wanting to deal with anyone, I tell the shop I'll be working pit all day and to just let me be. These guys have been working with me for a few years now and know something is up. I never once thought this would be a day that I'd have to deal with Karen, since I was working at the further shop from the main shop and it was in the opposite direction of the casinos, but I wasn't so lucky, or maybe I was. Peter and Karen show up and she storms into the pit and screams, Peter, come look at this mess. I have no idea what she's talking about because I always kept the pit spotless and would clean as I worked where a lot of others would clean at the end of the day. Her complaint was about 50 of the most common oil filters we would use in a day being stacked on my waste drums for easy access to me, so I wouldn't have to wait for the top guys to hand me filters. I did this all the time and Peter knew about it and never cared before. He comes down, looks around and tells me like he's talking to a teenager, clean up this pigsty. I shake my head and say, today's not the day, Peter, move on and take her with you. This apparently infuriated Karen, who of course thought it was the utmost disrespect to her and Peter, and he tells me if I don't like it, I'm free to leave, so I did. Now don't freak out, this story isn't over yet. It's just the first flap of the butterfly wings that started a massive crap storm. The next day, Peter calls me and asks me to swing by the main store on my way home. I think he's gonna apologize about the day before. I figure one of the other guys might have told him why I was so on edge. No, that was not what this was about. Peter was calling me in to inform me that for the next 6 months I'd be on a probation period for my actions, and for these 6 months I'd only be paid $50 a day, and I wouldn't receive the normal $20 a day I receive for driving to the other shops. I asked if he was serious about this, and if he was seriously considering what he was doing. Right, okay, Peter sucks too. This is when Peter let his true colours shine. He tells me I'm lucky I wasn't fired for my constant disrespect towards him and the co-owner Karen. How if he didn't pity me for being a struggling disabled veteran. I never once discussed my money with anybody I worked with. Why Peter thought I was broke and desperate was solely based on my appearance, from what I could tell, that he would have fired me long ago. Something inside me snapped and I just started laughing. He asked me what I thought was so funny, and I stood to my full height, stepped to him like a drill sergeant about to give some water wall counselling, and say, you should reconsider your life choices and who you choose to go into business with. Peter then says, what are you gonna do, sue me or something? Go ahead if you think you can afford to. What do you get from the VA, like $1,000 a month? I know how bad you need this job. That wasn't my plan, but it kicked in my malicious compliance, and since I'll always be a soldier to go to war, that day I called a labour lawyer, paid the $3,000 retainer, and I started my lawsuit for unsafe work environment, unpaid overtime and minimum wage violations, all while continuing to work for him. It was glorious, but still not enough. It took about the 6 months of my probation for the lawyer to get all of the paperwork together and filed. They were slow rolling it on my request, and this lawyer was a former Marine, so I think he had an idea of what I had in mind. After everything was ready, my lawyer filed the paperwork, and Peter and Karen were served at the main store while I was at work. They read the paperwork in the process server. My lawyer stuck around to be a witness to what I knew would be coming. When they read that I was suing them, Karen and Peter flipped out. Peter shouts, I should kick your ass, you ungrateful piece of crap. And Karen screams, you're freaking fired, you know what? I bet you weren't even really in the military. The process server recorded everything and gave it to my lawyer, who added it to the lawsuit unlawful termination because it's illegal to fire an employee because they're suing you. The next day, I opened up my lube shop car wash combo and started recruiting my former co-workers at a higher pay plus commission. They also wanted to jump in on the lawsuit, and my lawyer was more than happy to add them into it. So 2 years down the road, after subpoenas to get security footage from the shops, the book's going back 5 years, and sworn testimonies, we go to a mediation to settle. They offer a measly $50 $50,000 to split between the 15 of us when that didn't even cover the unpaid overtime. We declined, and then our Apache came in to save the day, sent by the IRS, delivered to my lawyer because of requests for the company's tax documents. Peter held each lube shop with its own individual LLC, each with its own tax ID and employment record. Peter and Karen thought it'd be a smart idea to move to file for a tax credit for employing a veteran at each of the 6 shops. In their filing, they claimed that they employed a veteran, me, as a full-time employee working a minimum of 36 hours a week at a rate of $12 an hour. The government gives a tax break to companies that employ veterans. At the next mediation, my lawyer presented the reports to their lawyer and the mediator, and after a quick 20-minute discussion, Peter and Karen came back and agreed to settle at our request of $400,000, all in unpaid overtime to be split between 15 of us, all legal fees and a personal settlement for the unlawful termination suit of $20,000 for each shop I was listed as an employee, as well as unpaid wages for the 6 months I was only paid $5 an hour. Their only demand was that we all agree to a gag order so that nothing would leave the mediator's table. Of course, we signed and we took our paychecks, but somehow their tax paperwork made its way to just the right person at the IRS, and they decided to audit Peter and Karen. Yes, sucked in Peter and Karen, and an investigation was opened on them for tax fraud. I sold the shop I opened to the guys that came over and jumped in on the lawsuit. They each paid me $8,000 and I washed my hands of it. I put my house up for sale and I moved away. I did go back about 8 months later because the guy who was supposed to take care of the lawn had apparently been arrested, and the yard went a few months without being cut before the city informed me that they were going to fine me $100 a day until it was brought to code. So I went down to mow it myself. Okay, I just want to say this entire post has barely had any commas in it. I'm sorry if I've read this super bad, guys. It's so hard to read. While there, I decided to check in with my realtor to see if there was anything we could do about the yard maintenance. And who do I see but little old Sue sitting pretty at the front desk. Sue couldn't speak fast enough to tell me what had happened, and it was perfect. What I thought was an Apache turned out to be an atom bomb. Peter filed bankruptcy to try and not go broke after making a plea deal for probation for tax fraud and paying a ton in unpaid taxes. Karen took off with some dude that she met at a casino. I asked Sue 2 questions: if she knew who reported the fraudulent tax paperwork to the IRS, and what happened with Peter's car collection. She told me I have no idea, and to check the parking behind the realtor's office before leaving. On my way out, I took a peek behind the realtor's office to see a safety green SV1 sitting there. Apparently, Peter started selling off his cars early and cheap, hoping that he'd be able to buy them back after filing bankruptcy. To this day, I have no idea who, if anybody, actually turned in the paperwork to the IRS. My personal theory is whoever was tasked with compiling it all, with all their claims, noticed something strange and reported it. However it happened, it couldn't have happened to anybody more deserving. Oh my god, what did we just read? That was amazing! And yeah, that's right, OP, they deserved it so much. And you weren't even thinking about suing them until they said that. Good on you, OP. They sounded bloody awful, and yeah, they definitely deserved it. I feel like once I edit this video, I'm gonna watch this again. That was so wild to read. And yeah, after that, I feel like we need to read something wholesome. That was so good. Is that eagle hurt? If you see an eagle lying down in the back left corner under a perch, that's Murphy. Murphy is not hurt, sick, or otherwise in distress. He's built a nest on the ground, and he's very carefully incubating a rock. We wish him the best of luck. Wow, Murphy, you legend. Incubating a little rock. So cute. An 83-year-old man paused at the top of an escalator, afraid to hop on. This young man offered the simplest act of kindness, an outreached arm, and a, "Can I help you on, sir?" Oh, that's also so cute. And good on them for doing that. They didn't have to, but they did. There are some beautiful people in the world. 7-year-old me smiling at the security camera in the store to make the camera person's day. Yeah, like, hello, I can see you. You try to freak them out a little bit. The alphabet song be like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Yeah, it really does start heating up. Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more episodes like this, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day today goes to That Chaotic Spirit 9806. Your videos are always fun to watch in the morning when I finally wake up early. Thank you for everything. Make sure not to burn out though. Oh, thank you. That means the world to me, and I'm so happy you enjoy the episodes. It's such an awesome feeling that you guys enjoy the videos. So yeah, thank you for the support. And yeah, I am definitely trying not to burn out. I don't know if you guys noticed, but for the first day ever, I didn't post a video a while back, and I don't want to make a habit of it, but at the same time, if you ever see a day where I don't post a video, just know that I'm probably sleeping or something, making sure that I'm looking after myself, you know? So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the concern. And yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next episode. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!